The vast majority of real estate agents will succeed by working with people they know. We do stuff that matters to the people that are in the area that we live in, and as a result, they reward us with their referrals, and we rarely ever have to talk to them about real estate. That's the truth.
Real estate professionals, welcome back to the RMG Agent Podcast. We are here to impact, empower, and encourage you. And we're here to do this today with our Master Series. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Jake Bartlett. Jake, who do we have today?
We have part 2 of the Matt Miale series on our Master Series. Part 1 was awesome. You can go back and listen to that, watch that wherever you listen to your podcasts or watch your YouTube stuff. He is awesome, and we ended up splitting this into 2 episodes because he's that rad.
It was just so fire, and he's so feisty, and we had to just keep going. So I hope you guys get a lot out of this. I had a fantastic time with Matt, and I hope you enjoy part 2 of the Master Series with Matt Miale. Okay, so let's just say you were talking to the avatar in the industry that we would call them successful or accomplished, right? And that's maybe a $5 to $15 million solo producer.
Okay.
And you decided, hey, because you're a human, because you're in the industry, I love you. And so because I love you, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So we've talked about ego, right? We've talked about easy. What else would you just say, hey, look, because I don't know you, but you're watching this, so here you go. What would you say?
The most important one that every agent should know is that north of 80% of your business is always going to come from people you know. You just simply have to get real with that. And that while there are outlier stories that we love to put on stage about people who sit and hammer the phones for 3 to 4 hours a day, calling strangers, the vast majority of real estate agents will succeed by working with people they know. And we put so much distraction in front of agents by telling them, no. Call this list of people you've never met. Buy this list of people that are going to register for. We give them too many places to go where the conversion rates are so low, rather than just go back to focus on what would the realtor in 1950 do?
Okay. Yeah.
What did they do? They shook hands. They made relationships. They served their community at a high level. And the business has really not changed.
Yeah.
That if you know more people and you serve them at a high level and provide value, you will get more inbound opportunities than you will if you spend the equal amount of time, if you spend the equal amount of time talking to strangers.
Okay, so here's what you're not saying that I'm hearing, and I want you to kind of give me some more context around this. When I talk to just a random agent, I say, where does your business come from?
Yep.
A lot of times they say, oh, it's my sphere, it's all that. And the reality is it's BS. They have no idea where it's coming from.
Right.
And not only do they not know where it's coming from, this idea of 80% of your business will come from people you know, and I know you're not saying this, it has this air of like, sit back and these people will just serve you.
No, not at all. Yeah, fair enough. So,
right?
Okay. If you remember earlier, I said you have to work full time. Right? So if you do remember that I didn't
Rule
say,
number one,
that I
go to
said
work.
Like it starts with you have to show up and go to work, right? So your job though is to serve those people that you know. And so now every agent that's out there that's listening to this, and I know this because I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of agents on this very concept, are going to say, but what do I do? And the answer is, it doesn't actually matter. Serve them, serve the community, be a part of it. Go engage the world as a realtor, as an ambassador for your community, as an ambassador for what you believe in. Go engage the world. If you love board games, go start a board game club. If you love playing softball, go play softball. Whatever it is that you enjoy, go be around the people that also enjoy that and be an ambassador for that thing. That is your fastest path and most probable path to having a long, sustainable, very, very rewarding business. Now, granted, I'm a people person. I've already said that. Now, if you're out there and you're like, I hate people, I don't like that. Number one, I think the odds are stacked against you for you to have a long, sustainable business because you're always going to have to feed from the trough of strangers.
This job is serving people.
Right. This is a service-based business, right? So,
yes.
But like there are people out there that are like, no, I'm transaction-based and that's all I want to do. And you can have a life that way. But the vast majority, and the research supports it, the vast majority of business is done with realtors that already know the person
Yeah.
or are referred by somebody who knows the person.
Yeah.
And so your time is best spent in that environment. Now, we do it on our team through a series of VIP client events. We do giveaways. We're constantly engaging with our audience around community events. We're doing charitable donations. Like, we do stuff that matters to the people that are in the area that we live in. And as a result, they reward us with their referrals. And we rarely ever have to talk to them about real estate. That's the truth. Like, you're talking to them about real estate when they have a real estate need. And in between that, you're talking to them about life and about their life and their kids and their dog and who's going to school where. And you're just doing those things. And the bigger the database is that you serve at a really high level, the more probable that you're going to get inbound referrals. Now, that is not a sit back. That is very much an engage the universe, engage them.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're not going to sit around thinking about you. Your job is to be in front of them. So how do you do that? You could do a golf tournament. You do anything. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Just make sure that every day you wake up and that you're having intentional conversations with people who know you.
I love that. And it makes me think, right? So I think there's a true thing about our industry, which is you need to be willing to do the hard things.
Yes.
And I think we take that and we take it over to the extreme, and all of a sudden we say the hard things mean the stupidest things.
Yes.
That's not the same.
That's correct. That's so well articulate. That like, the hard things are calling, like, I'm going to use an example, and I'm not picking on people who have success around this because I know some people do.
Sure.
But I think circle prospecting is one of the most crazy things that you could possibly think is going to turn into a deal. Now, circle prospecting could turn into a relationship that could at some point turn into a deal, but the probability that you're going to call a random neighborhood and find somebody that's just like, oh, I can't believe you called. My husband and I just decided this morning we're putting our house on the market. When can you come over?
Yeah.
That is insanity. That's not real. Like, that's again, you find the one person that has that one story and you put them on stage and they tell it.
Yeah.
And then 20,000 real estate agents run around and start circle prospecting their neighborhoods. Now, have I circle prospected and found deals? Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you? For sure, you have.
Yep.
Is it where the vast majority of my business came from? Absolutely not. No, the vast majority of my business came from people that already know me.
Yeah.
Right? So where should I spend the vast majority of my time? On that.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that, once again, I wish people would just tell the truth. It's just not sexy enough.
It's
just not sexy enough.
It's not. It's boring.
And you can't,
it's boring.
by the way, I can't charge for that advice either. So there's no money in it for me to tell people the truth, which is why we create complicated systems so we can charge money to real estate agents, separate them from their money, and tell them that we have the solution, which is, at the end of the day, actually way less likely to produce a result than just doing the thing that we already know is going to produce a result.
If we look at like the hard things, I think the hardest thing is to plan your time, figure out what it's going to be, and then just follow the bouncing ball.
The hardest thing is the discipline to get up every day and go to work when nobody calls you and says, why haven't you shown up to work yet today?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and if I do that, I think, circle prospecting, all of this stuff, that the way we teach it is, you call your core advocates and your network, and you talk to these people. And if you haven't hit your goals, now you
supplement
and
go
if
make
you
new
still
friends.
don't, you go knock on doors, make
That's
new
right.
friends.
That's it. Like, so we
we
break it down into that, is that your job every day is to serve the people you know. And if you don't know enough people that are producing an outcome for you, now the penalty of not knowing enough people is you have to go make new friends. Yeah. You have to just go find new ones. You have to make more friends because you didn't know enough people to be able to provide you with a goal. When's the last time you sold a house? Actively out and sold a house?
Years.
Yeah, okay. So I typically will sell between, say, 25 and 35 houses a year. And that is all Sphere byproduct. That is not me going out prospecting, door knocking, or anything. That is just because the size of my Sphere has produced a result and an outcome based on years of cultivating relationships, years of inviting people to things, years of sending them information, useful information, years of contributing to the community, years of showing up places where the size of the database produces 25 to 35 transactions every year and has for the last 5 or 6 years.
Amazing.
Now, you can do that as an agent. You can go build a big thing and then live the rest of your life on 25. I met an agent in our town. He's with another company, and he's in his late 70s. And 5 years ago, I did a transaction with him. The guy's a legend in our town. He's been around forever. 5 years ago, I did a transaction with him, and he told me he was retiring. And now every time I see him, I go, still not retired yet, man. I saw that new listing. And the other day, we ran into each other randomly in a parking lot. And he said, I can't retire. They keep calling. It's because he's been around so long and he's been serving the community so long that there's no reason to, because he loves the game, probably like you and like I do. So
it's serving people.
Totally. So I think that, that's what agents need to understand, is that it's nowhere near as complicated as you've made it. And to your point, we say you got to do the hard things. Let's get really real about what hard is. This is not hard. Yeah. This job is not hard. Will you face rejection? Sure. Are you going to have tough days? Yes. Is there going to be stress? Yeah. All those things are true. But those things are going to be true no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You're going to experience that in any career. But this job comes down to like going out and making friends with people, talking to lots of people. Like it's not, there's no one's life is at stake. Like it's pretty low stakes for a really high reward. Like it's not that hard.
My lens is pretty much everything hard comes down to the man in the mirror, comes down to me.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Hard is everything that I need to do habitually and get myself under control and do all these things, because once I've done that, whatever I'm doing is just what I'm doing.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was what Tony Robbins says, right? That there were 3 decisions that you need to make, which is one is what am I doing? The other one is how do I feel about it, right? And how do we feel about it? What meaning do we put into it?
Yeah.
And so you can wake up every day and say, this is really hard, I have to go talk to people, or you can wake up every day and say, this is amazing, I get to go talk to people.
Yeah.
Like that's how I look at it. Now, granted, I'm a people person. I like people, and I care for them, so that part came a little bit easier for me.
Yeah.
But this is what most agents need to understand, and I think. I talked a little bit about money. I think this is part of where the disservice to, up and coming agents comes from, is that we have told them that there's this abundant amount of money that you can go make and it's all going to be so easy. And then we tell them you got to go do all these really, really challenging things to get there. And it's just a formula for failure. By the way, I'm not saying that with opinion. It's true. Yeah. 85% of agents are out of the business within 3 years. There is no better proof that we are failing to produce, and we're flushing people out and then pretending it's not happening, and doing the exact same thing over and over again as an industry. Let's sell them this new thing. Let's sell them that new thing. So obviously I'm very passionate about that.
Well, I just love it. And the reason that you're here, right, is it's not just like I have just this opinion. It's I have this long history, and by the way, I have a huge business, and by the way, we do it this way.
Yeah, we do. And this is part of the thing that I think is interesting too, right? Is that we have always beat or met the profitability metrics for the standard sort of large scale team.
Yeah.
We do very, very well on our profit margins. So we run a really healthy, robust business. We employ people. We've started other businesses. We've done a lot of really cool things. And it's like the slow and steady, boring business. And I've always said, we did this all one day at a time by doing the things that work. And as they continue to work, we do more of them. And then eventually we try something different and we do that. And it's just very methodical and just continue to move the needle. And then eventually you wake up and you're like, wow, this is a pretty cool thing that we've built here.
I talked to somebody recently. He's a salesperson in a different industry. And he's like, hey, I feel like I've been coasting for a long time. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, well, I've been doing this for 13 years, and I outsell everybody, and it's easy because I just have all these relationships. So I think maybe I need to quit that and go start like a restaurant or something.
That sounds ridiculous.
And I'm like, I'm just like
I'd like my life to be much harder.
In a very short conversation, you just explained the problem that so many of us have.
Yes.
And that is, if life isn't hard, we will find out a way to sabotage ourselves and make it hard.
We are addicted to fighting off the ropes. Right? And then none of us know how to stay in the middle of the ring. Okay? So what we do is we go and get a little bit of victory, and then we find as many ways as we possibly can to complicate it so that we can get the adrenaline rush, so that we can get the validation of
I do this.
We all do it.
Yeah.
I catch myself in it and I go, I can't believe I did that again. I cannot believe I did that. And it's our impatience, right? It's our lack of, detailed analysis. It's falling in love with somebody who has no track record of results, but no, this one's going to be different. Like we do that over and over again because what we're trying to do is we're trying to validate our own role in it. Yeah. We're trying to become the hero. And at the end of the day, again, I think we have to turn our attention away from this, $1 million producer award and all of this. And we have to start realizing that like the real victory is not the illusion of living an exceptional life. It is living an exceptional life. And I think once again, we have to start measuring the success of our business, not by the vanity metrics, but by what really matters. Like, are people really experiencing a better life? And when I go to like what you asked earlier, what do you think you're good at? Like, I think that's something I really invest in my team. I think that I really make sure then when I say I know what's going on with them, it's like, hey, did you go to that gymnastics tournament with your daughter that's in Florida? I know that was going to be expensive and you were concerned about it, but I want to make sure that you did that.
Yeah.
And I put pressure on people to do things that make them uncomfortable, that are on the path of the life that they want.
Yeah.
And then that pressure creates motivation for them to go and produce. And then that's where the relationship gets deeper.
Yeah. One of the things you said just made me think about the things that as you mature, or maybe it's just getting older, you start realizing there are a bunch of things that you actually just don't want.
Totally.
You just
they just become less and less meaningful, right?
Yeah. The idea of having a corporate jet.
Yeah.
At some point, I love planes. I worked towards my pilot license, all that stuff. It was fun. Probably do it again sometime. But I ran all the math on a corporate jet and how much does this actually cost and all this stuff. And the conclusion I came to wasn't that I could never afford it. It's that I never wanted the lifestyle that required me to have a corporate jet.
I get that. Right.
I have to make $4 million a year so that I can have a business that I have to have a jet to travel around with. And I'm like, I just don't want.
Right. That means how many days away from home do I have to?
Right.
I love that. Yeah. There's our industry's loaded with that. Like, you have to get this or you have to get that, and these things are the earmarkers of success. And the people that I've come to, and to your point, maybe it's just getting older. The people I respect the most now are the ones that have abundant clarity about what their perfect life looks like.
Yeah.
Right. That like they figured it out early. Right. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to retire at 52. And I'm like, wow, what's that look like for you? And they're like, well, we worked really hard and we bought our second home and we're just going to hang out by the lake. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to start woodworking. And I'm like, wow, that's really awesome. Like, that sounds amazing. I love your clarity. Like, you found a way to live the life that you really want to live.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So
I love it, and it's just it's the person who I know people who have corporate jets, and it's very clearly it works for them and makes sense to them.
Sure, yeah, no judgment of people that want corporate jets. I think it's actually awesome.
It's just
I might still want one. I don't know.
But it's the idea of like dangling a carrot and telling everybody they should want it, and then when you're younger, you buy into this idea of I should want that, and then you go after something that you ultimately don't want, and I think somewhere deep down, maybe you don't even do the things you need to do because you're just shooting at the wrong thing.
Well, by the way, back to the point I made earlier, you also, if you have those false idols, you start to compromise in things that do matter to you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not until you actually, like, I could never imagine that I would have gotten into as bad a physical shape as I let myself get into. I would never, that's no future version of myself ever had that version of me.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
The version of me that went into his 50s, fit, healthy, working out, exercising, and yet, for some reason, multiple times throughout my life, my physical condition has deteriorated to a point where it's embarrassing for me to take my shirt off on a beach. And you go, how did that happen?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, because you got your priorities out of alignment.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the most important heavy lifting agents can do, especially when they're getting started, is get super clear on what is it they're doing it for. Right. So back to the early version of Matt was, I thought I was doing it for money. And then I made money and I didn't have a good relationship with it. So I had to fix that. And then once I fixed my relationship with money, I realized I don't actually give a shit about money.
Yeah.
Like that's why I would spend it. I didn't care about it. It wasn't like that wasn't a pure motivator for me. So that said, you need it in order to successfully have a life and a business and do all the other things. So what is important to me? Well, what is important to me is what I can do with the money and what that means for my family and the experiences that we can have and the legacy that I could potentially leave behind. And so now the money has meaning and I have a relationship with it so that it's got more something deeper attached to it.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody as an agent right now who's struggling, maybe even thinking about quitting?
Okay, remember I started this by saying I would tell the truth?
Yeah.
Maybe you should. I think that's the hardest answer, but this is super tough to say out loud, especially in public, but the reality is that the vast majority of people that get into this business should not be in this business. Mm-hmm. The barrier to entry is very low. Yes. The skill set required, the sort of grit and determination, and that is to say, I want to qualify what I just said. I do believe that anybody on some timeline can have success. Mm-hmm. I believe that if you put me in the right school and education and environment, that I could learn how to be an engineer. Yeah. I didn't have a natural aptitude for mathematics or any of that, but like with the right support system on some timeline, I could become an engineer. Mm-hmm. But I'm probably never going to be the top of my field, right? Because there's certain things that are just too much compensation. Our industry is so unforgiving when you fail at it, and the financial repercussions are so brutal.
There's no net.
That the timeline is so short before it is catastrophic for people. Yeah. And so it's just, a lot of people should be introduced to the idea that this might not be for them earlier on. Now that flies in the face of all the hustle culture and the David Goggins of the world. Just keep running. Like, yeah, all that makes sense. But like, not everybody can be David Goggins, right? And not all of us have an endless reservoir of emotional fortitude and the ability to withstand the financial repercussions that are gonna carry with you. If you fail out of this industry and you do it in glorious fashion, crash and burn, it's gonna have a long-standing impact.
Yeah. I think C.S. Lewis said one time, he said, if you're going the wrong way, the most progressive thing you can do is turn around.
Yes, right? Correct. Yeah,
it's hard to hear though.
Hard to hear, and you know, so I've adopted that as kind of a principle for me, is that when I meet somebody who I think probably isn't cut out for it, I'm not as aggressive. I won't go directly at it and say like, hey, you should consider not doing this, but I really try to paint the picture of what their expiration date is, because it's something they won't often think about. And so I'll ask, like, when is the day that you will decide to do something different? And oftentimes they'll be like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, let's just start with the brass tacks. This isn't emotional. When are you going to run out of money? Yeah. When will you eventually just be at $0 in, and you won't have any ability to pay your bills? And I let them pick the day. And then oftentimes I'm like, now, do you have any debt? And there's always debt. And it's like, so at what point are you going to go into enough debt for you to decide that this isn't going to work for you? And you let them pick. And oftentimes when confronted with that, they'll make the decision. Like, you're probably right. Like, I should probably go have an alternative.
Or they're going to get pissed off and they're going to say, screw you, I'm going to prove you wrong. In which case, okay.
And by the way, I have real stories where that has been enough of the motivator for somebody to say, don't you tell me I have an expiration date. Yes. And they show up and but here's what happens. Yeah. They start doing the work.
They do the work.
They start doing the work.
Right.
And because I do believe, like, it's not complicated. You can do this, but the reason people fail at it is they're not willing to do the work because they carry so much emotion around it. They put too much meaning into the everyday activity. Yeah. It's like, somebody hung up on me. Oh my God, I'm going to think about it all day. Or some client's upset because something didn't happen. And it's like, keep going, man. Like, that's the only job. That's the job. That never ends. The more you do this, the more you realize, like, the job is navigating complex emotional situations. Yeah. All day, every day.
Rory Vayner spoke. He does personal branding, and one of the things that he said is, if you're selling people, there's wins and losses. If you're serving people, there's only wins.
Super smart. I like that.
And it was in the context of whenever you're thinking this way, you're actually thinking about yourself.
That's right.
Who are you thinking about? I just love it.
Yeah, I think that's the ones that are thinking about getting out is, I think that you should do a very real financial assessment, and then really ask yourself, are you prepared to do the things you need to do in order to not have this become a catastrophe? Yeah. Because at some point things become irreconcilable. They do. Some consequences last longer. If your credit's going to get destroyed, you're going to suffer with that for 2 years. Sure. Right? If if you have a slush fund and you're going to get down to zero, you should figure out how to make sure that you have some way to bounce back. Yeah. Because a lot of agents, especially right now, are really going to suffer. Yes. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we heard this morning that there will be 500,000 new real estate agents that enter the industry in the next 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. There's only 4 million transactions that are going to sell total in the country.
Yeah.
There's only 4 million homes.
Yeah.
And there's how many realtors right now?
1.5.
Yeah, I mean,
1.6 million.
it's like 3 houses per agent.
Yeah.
That's not enough for anybody. Like, that's not enough. Like, the average in just about any market, you have to be able to sell at least 20 homes to just make a reasonable living. Now, granted, there's some outlier markets, Beverly Hills, whatever, where you could sell 8, right, 5, and live a great life. But like, you know, in most of the country, you need to be willing to. You have to figure out how to get 2 to 3 deals under contract and sold every month in order to make a good living.
Sure.
Not like even certainly not private jet level, right? But like just to make a good living. And so, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to be the salesperson that you need to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I love it. Well, the goal today was to impact and empower and encourage agents, and I think you did all those things.
I don't know. Maybe discouraged.
I think
burst some bubbles. I don't know. But
I think encouraging somebody to think.
Yeah, sure. I'll take that.
Is the deal, right? Because that is, I mean, it may even be popular right now accidentally to love somebody off of a cliff. And it's just not even in our industry, just in our world.
In general.
And that's not good. It's not good for kids. It's not good for anybody that we love, right? And so the idea of here's the truth.
Yep.
And then I'll leave it to you to orient yourself around it.
Yeah, I wish we would just in general do that more. And I've seen, you know, I'm not taking anything away from a lot of the mindset work that we do. I've manifested some amazing experiences in my life as a result of the trainings that I've gotten around that. But I think that fundamentally they come after production, not before. And I think that we've reversed it, that we bring people in and we teach them so much of, like, you know, diving into your inner self and learning who your future self is and doing so much of that work before they learn how to produce, that we distract people from like what really matters, which is, hey, in this business, you have to sell a house.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get somebody that you've never met to agree to meet you somewhere that they've never been, to talk to you about something that they know nothing about, so that you can help them do something that they've never done. And if you don't know how to do that, you never get paid.
Right.
You never get paid.
Right.
So the vast majority of agents have to master that process. And then figure out who you are in the process. Like, how did you show up here?
That's
like,
right.
Wake up one day and go, how did I get here? And then figure it out. So.
It's easier to reflect when you have money in the bank and you've worked on some structural things.
Totally. Totally.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Sharing, dude.
This has been great.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.